This podcast is brought to you by Empor.top, the stories of top companies. Disclaimer, this AI-generated content is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice. Opendoor Technologies, the iBuying revolution. The rain had barely started when Eric Wu made his decision. It was March 2014, San Francisco, and the serial entrepreneur was sketching diagrams on a whiteboard in a cramped office, outlining what would become a $18 billion idea, at least for a moment. The company was founded in March 2014 by serial entrepreneurs Keith Rabois, Eric Wu, who previously founded Movity, a real estate startup acquired by Trulia, and J.D. Ross, now a general partner at Atomic. How did a company promising to revolutionize home selling with instant cash offers lose billions and still survive? This is the story of Opendoor Technologies, the company that dared to turn real estate's most sacred transaction, buying a home, into something as simple as ordering an Uber. The journey spans from ambitious founding to SPAC euphoria, pandemic chaos, and the fight for survival. Ahead of its 2020 IPO, the company's market cap was around $18 BN. That cap in early 2023 was slightly above $1 billion. Today, after burning through billions and outlasting its biggest competitor, Opendoor stands as the last major iBuyer standing, bruised, restructured, but somehow still alive.
It's foda. Nearly 2 decades ago, Wu was still a college student studying economics at the University of Arizona. The real estate shopping spree started when Wu was just 19 years old, when he says he had this notion that I didn't want to pay rent, so I ended up finding a way to buy a home. Wu wasn't your typical college kid. While his classmates were cramming for exams, he was leveraging scholarship money into down payments. Wu refinanced the home and pulled out equity and used that as a down payment on other homes he ended up buying during that time. In other words, not long after buying his first property, Wu refinanced his mortgage on that home to get enough capital to put a down payment on a second home. And on, until he owned more than 24 properties in Arizona within just a few years. This wasn't just real estate investing, it was an obsession, a systematic dismantling of the traditional property ladder before he'd even graduated. Wu grew up in Glendale, Arizona as the son of Taiwanese immigrants. His father died when he was 4. At the time, his mother worked as a social worker. Perhaps this early loss instilled in Wu a fierce determination to build something stable, something that couldn't be taken away. After college, Wu's entrepreneurial journey continued. In 2010, Wu co-founded Movity, a real estate website that collected and analyzed neighborhood data. That same year, it was accepted to Y Combinator. It was acquired by Trulia 1 year later. But the real genesis of Opendoor came from an unlikely conversation. Enter Keith Rabois, PayPal Mafia member, venture capitalist, operational genius. Keith Rabois is an American technology executive and investor. He is a managing director at Khosla Ventures. He was an early-stage startup investor and executive at PayPal, LinkedIn, Slide, and Square. Rabois has been working on the idea for Opendoor since 2003 under the codename Home Run, after a conversation he had with Peter Thiel. The idea had been percolating for over a decade. Why did it take Keith close to a decade to pursue the idea fully post having the idea in 2003? As Rabois himself explained, he kept getting distracted by amazing entrepreneurs talking me into their vision. But by 2014, the pieces finally aligned. Opendoor was founded in 2014 by a team of entrepreneurs led by Eric Wu, who saw an opportunity to address the inefficiencies and pain points that plagued traditional home sales. Wu, along with co-founders Ian Wong, J.D. Ross, and Keith Rabois, recognized that selling a home was time-consuming, unpredictable, and fraught with hurdles for most Americans. The concept behind Opendoor was simple yet transformative. Use technology, data science, and capital to buy homes directly from sellers, fix them up as needed, and resell them to buyers. It was audacious. They would become the market maker for America's largest asset class.
The model property owners bid to sell their properties on the online platform. When a bid is accepted, Opendoor purchases the property as is, charging a fee comparable to the commissions real estate agents collect in return for the convenience of closing a sale quickly without home showings. Opendoor then makes necessary repairs before relisting the property. By following this process, the company is known as an iBuyer in the real estate industry. The elegance was in the simplicity, but the execution was anything but simple. In 2019, the company reported that the average time a property is held by the company is 90 days. 90 days to buy, renovate, and sell. It was a high-wire act, performed thousands of times simultaneously. Funding history. The money came fast and furious. After raising a $995 million venture capital round, led by XIII Ventures in May 2014, the company began operations. Rabois, through XIII Ventures, was betting on his own vision. Opendoor, the service that allows homeowners to instantly sell their home online, has raised $20 million in their latest round of funding. This brings their combined raise to $30 million. GGV Capital led the round with XIII Ventures, a prior investor, also participating. That was Series B in 2015, and the momentum was building. By 2016, the floodgates opened. Access Industries, located in New York City, United States, made their first investment in Opendoor on Jan 27, 2016 in its Series C round. Then came the Series D bombshell. In November 2016, Opendoor announced its $210 million Series D round with Norwest Venture Partners, NEA, XIII Ventures, Access Technology Ventures, Fifth Wall, Lakestar, Google Ventures, and GGV Capital. The Series E in 2018 was when Silicon Valley truly blessed the model. The round was co-led by General Atlantic, Access Technology Ventures, and Lennar Corporation, the leading home builder in the U.S., with additional participation from new investors, Andreessen Horowitz, Co2 Management, 10100 Fund, and Invitation Homes. The $325 million Series E round brings the total equity raised by Opendoor to $600 million. The company has also raised $1.5 billion in debt financing alongside the equity capital. Travis Kalanick's 10100 Fund was in. Andreessen Horowitz was in. The smart money was betting that real estate's most entrenched industry was about to be disrupted. Early operations. In 2014, Opendoor proudly served our first customer and acquired a home in Phoenix, AZ. This first transaction demonstrated the need for Opendoor. Phoenix wasn't chosen randomly. It was the perfect petri dish. Relatively homogeneous housing stock, predictable weather, strong population growth. A year later, after we launched Phoenix, Opendoor expanded to service customers in Dallas, TX. This would kickstart our expansion to markets across the country. Opendoor Dallas launched in February 2015, soon after the company's founding in Phoenix. The Dallas expansion proved the model could scale. Dallas, Opendoor's second market, is doing remarkably well. The transaction volumes there reached parity with Phoenix after only 6 months. This wasn't just luck, it was validation. By 2017, Opendoor helped over 10,000 customers buy or sell their homes. The machine was humming.
The SoftBank mega round. Then came the money that changed everything. In 2018, Opendoor raised $400 million in funding from the SoftBank Group Vision Fund. SoftBank's Vision Fund wasn't just investing, they were pouring gasoline on the fire. In 2019, it raised $300 million in a funding round led by General Atlantic. The valuation had reached stratospheric levels. Just over a year ago, Opendoor raised $300 million in a capital raise that valued the company at $3.8 billion. Zillow enters the ring. The real validation and threat came when Zillow entered the arena. Zillow Group, NASDAQ, ZG, the well-known real estate marketplace, launched its own iBuying service, Zillow Offers, bringing increased attention and legitimacy to the model. Zillow Offers launched in 2018 in Phoenix and Las Vegas, and most recently operated in 25 cities across the country. This wasn't David versus Goliath. It was Goliath versus Goliath. Zillow had the brand, the traffic, the data, but Opendoor had something else. Years of operational experience and battle scars. Market dynamics. By the late 2010s, Opendoor was buying and selling thousands of homes each month and had established itself as a household name in online real estate. The numbers were staggering. The company now purchases more than 2.5 billion homes on an annual run rate, up over 225% year-on-year. Opendoor has seen fast adoption of the online real estate experience, with more than 1 in 2 sellers who receive an offer choosing Opendoor over the traditional process. This wasn't just market share, it was proof that consumers wanted what Opendoor was selling. Certainty over maximization, speed over patience.
IX. The shutdown March 2020. The world stopped, and so did Opendoor. The company that prided itself on instant transactions suddenly couldn't transact at all. Opendoor suspended home buying in mid-March, citing safety concerns. The decision was swift and brutal. Contracts in process were canceled. Sellers who thought they had a done deal suddenly didn't. The machine that had been built to never stop had ground to a halt. The layoffs, in response, we've announced to the company that we've made the difficult decision to reduce our team by 35%, Wu continued. This was necessary to ensure that we can continue to deliver on our mission and build the experience consumers deserve. The numbers were devastating. Opendoor, which has raised more than $1 billion in funding in the last few years, laid off over 600 of its employees Wednesday as the company struggles to deal with the economic impact of the coronavirus. But Wu didn't just cut and run. CEO Eric Wu will separately donate his 2020 salary to establish an employee relief fund. We are doing everything we can to support our teammates who will be leaving us, including 8 weeks of pay and reimbursement of 16 weeks of health insurance coverage. Also, I'll be donating my 2020 salary to our Opendoor Employee Relief Fund to help those who may be in more challenging financial or health circumstances due to COVID-19, the restart. By May, the company was clawing its way back. New safety protocols, virtual tours, contactless transactions. Opendoor was reinventing itself in real time. The pandemic that nearly killed it was also accelerating the very digital transformation it had been preaching.
The Chamath deal enter Chamath Palihapitiya, the SPAC king. On September 15, 2020, social capital Hedosophia Holdings Corp. II announced its intention to merge with Opendoor. The deal valued Opendoor at an enterprise value of $4.8 billion. On December 17, 2020, shareholders of social capital Hedosophia Holdings Corp. II approved the merger. On December 24, 2020, the merger was finalized and the company began trading on the NASDAQ stock exchange under its new name, Opendoor. Market cap peak. The euphoria was intoxicating. Ahead of its 2020 IPO, the company's market cap was around $8 billion. $18 billion for a company that was essentially flipping houses at scale. The market loved the story, tech meets real estate, algorithms conquering inefficiency. Wu became a paper billionaire overnight. At the close of the market on Monday, 38-year-old Wu's 6% stake in Opendoor was worth a $1.01 billion post-IPO funding. Even after going public, the money kept flowing. Their latest funding round was of $850 million on iBuying XIII 2021. Opendoor's largest funding round was a post-IPO round held on August 18, 2021 for $850 million. The market couldn't get enough. This was the future, or so everyone thought.
Do you want to hear our curse? Zillow's spectacular failure. Then came November 2021, and the iBuying world changed forever. Just weeks after it paused new iBuying, Zillow on Tuesday made the startling announcement that it plans to shut down its iBuying operations altogether. The move should take several quarters and will also result in Zillow reducing its workforce by approximately 25%. The numbers were catastrophic. In its quarterly earnings report on Tuesday, the company said it will see a total write-down of more than $540 million as a result of its exit from the business, which buys homes and resells them. As a result of shutting down Zillow offers, the company said it will be cutting some 2,000 jobs. The killer detail. In Q3, the 3 months that broke the business, Zillow purchased more houses than in the previous 18 months combined. They had essentially bet the company on their algorithm, and the algorithm was wrong. Zillow took a $304 million write-down in the third quarter due to unintentionally purchasing homes at higher prices than our current estimates of future selling prices. The company said in the earnings statement, impact on Opendoor. With Zillow's exit, Opendoor is left as the undisputed iBuying champion. Zillow's exit is a mixed blessing for Opendoor and puts the spotlight on Opendoor's path to profitability. On the one hand, Zillow's absence from the market will relieve some competitive tension, allowing Opendoor to make slightly lower offers and charge slightly higher fees. There should be a small positive effect on margins, which Opendoor needs more than ever. But the victory was Pyrrhic. If Zillow, with all its data, traffic, and resources, couldn't make iBuying work, what did that say about the model itself? Market deterioration. The reality was brutal. In the fourth quarter of 2022, Opendoor sold around 7,500 homes at an average loss of $28,000 each, compared to an average gain of $16,000 for each sale a year earlier. Opendoor reported a loss of 1.4 billion in 2022, after a loss of $662 million in 2021. Sales in 2022 were $15.6 billion. Revenue was massive, but it was being incinerated in losses.
CEO change the board had seen enough. In late 2022, co-founder Eric Wu remained CEO. After losses, he was replaced in the post by Carrie Wheeler in early 2023. The official announcement tried to put a positive spin on it. Carrie Wheeler as Chief Executive Officer and the transition of Eric Wu to a new role as President, Marketplace, effective immediately. Ms. Wheeler will join the board and Mr. Wu will continue to serve as a member of the board. Wheeler wasn't an outsider. She had been CFO since the SPAC. Carrie Wheeler has served as Chief Executive Officer and as a member of the Board of Directors since December 2022. She previously served as Chief Financial Officer from September 2020 to December 2022, more layoffs. The cuts kept coming. In November 2022, Opendoor cut 18% of its workforce, or 550 jobs. Then another wave. Opendoor cut 22% of its workforce in April of 2023, or roughly 560 positions, mostly in the company's operations unit, citing a declining housing market. Market cap collapse. The stock market delivered its verdict. That cap in early 2023 was slightly above $1 billion, from $18 billion to $1 billion, a 94% destruction of value.
Siri. Ito, the core business. At its heart, Opendoor's model was deceptively simple. The company would make instant cash offers to homeowners, typically charging a service fee of 5 to 8%, comparable to traditional real estate commissions, handle any necessary repairs, and resell the homes. To support these operations, Opendoor invested heavily in data infrastructure and built a team of in-house experts in pricing, renovations, and logistics. The company's technology stack enabled it to continuously refine its pricing models and manage thousands of homes at scale, the fundamental challenge. But the model had inherent vulnerabilities that no amount of technology could fully solve. Inventory risk. Every home Opendoor bought was a bet on future prices. In a rising market, this worked beautifully. In a flat or falling market, it was devastating. Capital intensity. The business required massive amounts of capital, both equity and debt, to function. This wasn't a software company with 90% gross margins. It was a capital-intensive operation masquerading as a tech company. Information asymmetry reversed. Much of the time, big companies have more information than everyday people when it comes to buying and selling things. But in real estate, that information asymmetry is reversed. In other words, homeowners know a lot more than the iBuyers about problems that make their homes tricky to sell. Product evolution Opendoor knew it needed to evolve beyond just buying and selling homes. With that feedback in mind, Opendoor launched a trade-in service in March 2016, giving customers the ability to buy a new home and sell their current home in one simple transaction. In 2019, we took another step forward to make moving easier and more affordable with the launch of Buy with Opendoor. In 2019, we launched Opendoor Home Loans to help buyers secure a mortgage. Navigating the complex world of mortgage terms, interest rates, and financing fees can be confusing and time-consuming. And for some, it can mean missing out on the home of their dreams. We designed Opendoor Home Loans to make financing as simple and frictionless as finding a home. The company continues to develop new products and services, such as Opendoor Complete, which allows customers to buy and sell in one integrated transaction, and partnerships with mortgage and title companies to create an end-to-end digital experience.
Recent leadership changes 2025. The drama wasn't over. In August 2025, another earthquake. Opendoor CEO Carrie Wheeler said on Friday that she's resigning from the online real estate company. Wheeler's departure comes after investors spurred a big rally in the beaten-down stock and then led a pressure campaign against the CEO. The pressure had come from an unlikely alliance. Hedge fund manager Eric Jackson and Opendoor's own co-founder. Jackson has been a loud voice on X pushing for Wheeler's departure and was recently joined by Opendoor co-founder and venture capitalist Keith Rabois, who posted on August 13 that not a single founder nor executive who guided the company to its IPO supports Wheeler as CEO. Opendoor named technology chief Shrisha Radhakrishna as president and interim leader and said a CEO search is underway. Market position. Despite everything, Opendoor remained standing. As of November 2021, the company operates in 44 markets in the U.S. It was still the largest iBuyer in a market where being the largest might not mean being profitable. Strategic pivots. The company was trying everything. Partnerships with agents, the very people it once threatened to replace, technology licensing plays, and a desperate emphasis on capital efficiency. The revolutionary had become the incumbent, fighting for survival rather than disruption.
When capital is your product, Opendoor's journey reveals a fundamental truth. When your business model requires massive capital deployment, you're not really a tech company. You're a financial company with a tech wrapper. The leverage that makes software companies so valuable, write once, sell infinite times, doesn't exist when every transaction requires buying a house. The SPAC era. The Opendoor SPAC perfectly encapsulated the 2020-2021 market. Narrative over numbers, vision over viability. Ahead of its 2020 IPO, the company's market cap was around $18 BN. The market was valuing potential, not performance. A bet that would prove catastrophically wrong. Innovation versus execution. Opendoor proved that being first doesn't guarantee success. Zillow had more resources, more data, more traffic, but Opendoor survived while Zillow offers died. Sometimes operational excellence beats strategic advantage. Market timing. The iBuying model worked beautifully in a rising market with low interest rates. When rates rose and the market cooled, the model's fundamental weakness, the need to predict future home prices accurately, became fatal for Zillow and nearly fatal for Opendoor.
Bear case, the bears have compelling arguments. Fundamentally flawed unit economics. The model only works in perfect conditions. Susceptible to market cycles. One bad quarter can wipe out years of progress. Traditional real estate industry resistance. Agents aren't going away quietly. Capital requirements unsustainable. The dilution and debt burden may prove insurmountable bull case. But the bulls aren't wrong either. Largest player in growing market. If iBuying survives, Opendoor dominates. Technology and data advantages. Years of transactions create competitive moats. Consumer behavior shift toward convenience. The Uberization of everything continues. Potential for margin improvement at scale. Network effects could eventually emerge.
Dawn occurs. Opendoor's story isn't over, but its first chapter has been written in red ink. The company that promised to revolutionize real estate has instead become a cautionary tale about the limits of disruption in capital-intensive industries. Yet there's something admirable about the attempt. Wu, Rabois, and their team saw an industry ripe for change and threw everything at it. They built something that actually worked. Just not profitably, not consistently, not sustainably. The tension between innovation and profitability isn't unique to Opendoor. Uber lost money for over a decade. Amazon was unprofitable for years. But those companies had network effects and economies of scale that iBuying may never achieve. Perhaps the real lesson is simpler. Some industries resist disruption, not because they're backward, but because they've evolved to handle complexity that algorithms still can't master. Every house is unique. Every seller has different motivations. Every market has its own dynamics. Opendoor wanted to turn homes into commodities, to make buying a house as simple as buying a stock. But homes aren't stocks. They're dreams, memories, and life's biggest financial decision. That human element, messy, irrational, irreducible, may be why traditional real estate, for all its frustrations, endures. The company continues to operate, to iterate, to search for profitability. Whether it finds it or joins the long list of well-funded startups that couldn't quite crack the code remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. The real estate industry will never be quite the same. Opendoor may not have revolutionized home buying, but it proved that revolution was possible. Sometimes that's enough to change everything. This podcast is brought to you by Top, the stories of top companies. Disclaimer: this AI-generated content is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice.